Welcome back, everybody, to another edition of the Fatboyz Dynasty podcast, hosted by the Fantasy Holics Podcast Network. Coming at you again live on the YouTube channel. Bo and Brant doing a little bit more pre-draft stuff. You know, it really gets heavy for us in the Dynasty world after a lot of these guys get their homes come draft week. So, Brant, you and I both talked about it. We thought the best thing to do this week would be a redraft of last year's class because, well, those guys all have their homes. So we're going to come at you with a 2-round redraft of last year's offensive rookies.
Yeah, they already have their homes. They already know, roughly where they are in the offense. I know there's a few things shaking up the offense throughout this offseason on some of these rookies. We saw some injuries. But yeah, redrafted these these second-year players from a dynasty standpoint to really see kind of where we like them right now. Obviously, a few things will change when the actual rookies come in and we get to talk into full-blown rankings. But, re-ranking of these rookies is pretty much, or of these second-year players is kind of what we're at now.
Yeah, Brant, and I think when it comes to this class, there's going to be definitely some movers and shakers because really I went back and looked at a couple of the rookie drafts I was a part of last year, and just to see who went where and how shocking it was to see some of those guys, like a guy like Sky Moore, who some people drafted with his upside as a round one rookie, or even mid to late round second at the latest, and not too much of a spoiler here, but I don't have him inside my top 20, Brant. So it's just definitely interesting to see how that was for me. I'm sure as you and I get through this, you'll have some guys in different spots than I do, but we are redrafting this as if it was a dynasty draft. So more how we value these guys now moving forward than anything else. It's not just how they did last year, it's moving forward. So Brant, how do we want to determine who goes in what order here?
Well, it's really the 101, I think, is consensus. So it really starts at the even numbers. Man, it's kind of tough on it. Why don't you just take it from the top and I'll take the evens, you take the odds, and we'll just break it down that way. And then next time we'll flip it over.
Okay. Yeah. So for me, I still think in a dynasty, if I was redrafting this class today, just as well as I did back then, it's number one is not changed. It's still Breece Hall. I think if Aaron Rodgers comes to town and Breece Hall can stay healthy, I mean, this guy could be a top 10 finisher in redraft, dynasty, whatever the case may be this year. I think the ceiling's the limit for him. We definitely saw him come in and get some really good time, prior to his injury last year, had some really, really good weeks where, he left no doubt to folks that why he was the number one guy. Now, I will say, Brant, the guy that I have a feeling you're going to draft at number 2 that I don't think changed for a lot of folks did get closer for me in this.
Not so fast.
All right. Well, anyway, the guy who I have at number 2 got close for me here, just based on how he finished the season and where the offenses should be for both of these teams next year. But I left it at Breece Hall at 1.
Yeah, I did too. I left it at Breece Hall as 1. When he was on the field, he was dynamic. He was by far and away, in my mind, the best player out of this draft, position-wise or fantasy relevancy-wise. And I think that continues to go forward with Breece Hall. That was an easy set it and forget it guy. If I had the 101 again, it would be Breece Hall all over again. And the reason I say not so fast is last year we saw the real emergence of wide receivers and how important they are in most leagues. So I went a little bit different here. It hurt a little bit to put this name here. I'm going at the 102. I value Drake London as the best wide receiver out of this class. I have him as my 102. He's the number 1 in your offense, in your Atlanta Falcons offense. I know there's Kyle Pitts there, but I absolutely expect him to excel in that offense. I know he's been working out this offseason with Desmond Ridder. So I actually have him at my 102. He showed flashes of being very productive. He was targeted a monstrous amount of times from Desmond Ridder, and it sounds like Atlanta's going to ride the Ridder train. So I think with Ridder in London, I think the sky's really the limit, and I really think he could be the best wide receiver, as most projected him to be coming out of last year's draft. I really do still feel that he is the best wide receiver right there, because they really didn't add a whole lot of weapons around him. And they solidified their trust in him by moving on from Ridley and not trying to keep him around.
Yeah, so I took Drake London as the first wide receiver off the board in a lot of drafts that I was in last year. Definitely still have a lot of respect and love for Drake London and his game. But I had Drake London all the way down at pick number 4 for me. So I did have another wide receiver slightly ahead of him. But with you taking Drake London at number 2, that means I've got to take Kenneth Walker at number 3. Again, this guy came in and put a lot of I would say concerns that people had with his game to sleep pretty early. I mean, if you think of that London game where you guys played, or was it Germany? I'm sorry, overseas game where you guys played against Tampa Bay, and Kenneth Walker was like not a non-factor on the ground. Like I probably could have put up more rushing yards in that game than Kenneth Walker did, but he absolutely salvaged his day and a lot of people's weeks that owned him based on how many receptions he got, how many receiving yards he got. He put in so much work receiving that game that it didn't matter that he didn't do anything on the ground. And the fact that he was so versatile and able to do that for me is why I still had him at number 2 in my rankings. So for me to get him at number 3, I'm definitely happy with this. Again, I'm not mad at the top 4 for me. Really, any of these guys, if I draft them on my dynasty team, I'm going to be happy moving forward. But for me, I just had those running backs just a touch above the wide receivers in this class.
I got you. That's very understandable. Walker's in a great situation in Seattle. There's no backs behind him right now. Rumor is Seattle is looking to add some back depth, and depending on who that is, could really fluctuate his spot. And just the little question mark there was the only reason that I kind of moved him out of number 2 and just dropped him down is in my first 2 picks, I want a guy that I know there's not really a question mark hanging around. And at my number, and that will actually move me right into my number 4, where there are some more question marks. That's Garrett Wilson. Who's his quarterback? I know they just added Lazard. But Garrett Wilson is my number 4 pick. You can move him all the way up to number 2 in my mind. Like you said, 1, 2, 3, and 4 are absolutely the same, or not the same, but not the same order, but the same 4 names. I assume is your number 2 pick is probably Garrett Wilson.
Well, I actually had Garrett Wilson at 3 for me, and I do think he is right now in my mind has the best fit, if you will, moving forward on his team. He's the true alpha. I just worry with Drake London that Kyle Pitts could potentially move into that at some point. I don't see anybody right now in the New York Jets offense that's going to supplant Garrett Wilson. So for me, that's why I had him at 3. But Brant, you're 100% right. These top 4 names are the same, just in different order. And I'm not crying over any of these guys at a draft day.
No, absolutely not. And even now, going into a redraft league, a dynasty league, anything else, these guys in my mind are still. You really got to look at them in the top 2 rounds, really, even with all the veterans names out there. Obviously, you and me haven't broke down our rankings yet. We'd like to wait till the rookies come out. But if I were to do it today, I'm probably pretty sure those guys are going to be in my top 20 of dynasty rankings now as well.
I would think that I'm going to have all those guys in there someplace as well. So for me, Brant, number 5, this is where I start to see that there could be some like real arguments about this guy should be way lower, way higher, whatever. I took this guy at number 5, and I'm not necessarily that infatuated with his situation moving forward. Obviously, things are subject to change. We're still a few months away from the start of the season. I took Chris Olave at 5. Michael Thomas restructured his contract going into the offseason. I thought for sure Michael Thomas was out of New Orleans, and I would have liked this pick a ton more. But, Chris Olave staying with Michael Thomas and then getting a new quarterback in Derek Carr. I do think that if Michael Thomas actually steps on the field, he's going to suck some value away from Chris Olave, much more so than a guy like Jarvis Landry did last year. So I do worry a little bit about his value, but for me, it's not enough to take him outside of my top 5.
Number 5, Chris Olave. I too have Chris Olave sitting at number 5. I absolutely love his upside. The addition of Derek Carr there made me extremely happy with what Chris Olave could be this year. We saw what Carr loves with his slot wide receiver and Hunter Renfrow, and this could end up being the Hunter Renfrow version. better than Hunter Renfrow there and Chris Olave. So I absolutely love his upside in Dynasty. I love his PPR upside. So yeah, Chris Olave at 5. Now this is where I think we're both going to have a little argument, maybe a little bickering. At number 6, I took Treylon Burks out of Tennessee. Question marks arise with his quarterback situation. I absolutely love his upside, big-bodied guy. He got his and issues under control. I know we saw him get banged up a little bit, miss some time. But Derrick Henry's, up on the trade block. That offense may be turning over into a more pass-friendly one. I just saw the top 4 quarterback. There's a very good chance that you see somebody else throwing the ball to Treylon Burks, and I absolutely love his upside. I watched a lot of film on him coming out. Better than anyone else, I had a little infatuation love with him coming out, so I know what he's capable of, and I expect him to take that sophomore step forward next year.
Yeah, Treylon Burks, for me, Brant, there's just too many issues and like you mentioned, too many question marks for me. I still had him inside my top 10, but I did have him slightly down further than you. I had him at number 9. And just because, again, Ryan Tannehill, Derrick Henry, those are all still things that definitely deter me. And as long as Derrick Henry is in Tennessee, I know he's on the trade block potentially, but as long as he's there, he's going to be the focal point of that offense. And I would imagine he's still going to have 350 carries plus if he's there. So that really limits a guy like Treylon Burks. So for me, I took at number 6, I'm going to mention him. So I'll take him at number 7 since you passed on him. I had Dameon Pierce out of Houston, and you know how late I was to the party with Dameon Pierce, Brant. And I'm still not necessarily sold on the fact that I think Houston adds another back in this class someplace. But that offense should be much better, so his touches will be more meaningful this year than they were last year, which obviously equates to more fantasy value. If he's getting more touches around the goal line, that adds more touchdowns, which then, in fact, obviously shoots up your fantasy value. So for me, I had Dameon Pierce there. Last year, where I had Dameon Pierce valued, I don't think I would have even come close to the first round with him. So, at this point, I'm taking Dameon Pierce at 7. The rest of my top 10's a little wishy-washy for me, but they're all still guys that I feel like I have to get in the top 10.
Yeah, I actually have Pierce all the way down at number 10. While we're talking about that, I don't trust the fact that he is going to be the number 1 there. I was on the hype train a little bit more than you, and I'm starting to come off it, the signing of a Singletary there. And like you said, I expect them to add somebody else too. So I actually dropped him down. My rankings actually have 2 other backs ahead of him inside my top 10. But with you taking him at number 6, at my number, I take Jameson Williams out of Detroit with my next pick. I think that he absolutely, I have him ranked as my number 7 player here. So I absolutely love wait, that should be your pick.
No, I took Jameson Williams or Dameon Pierce at 6. You have, wait.
You're odd, so you would have taken Pierce at 7.
Got 7, so you're up at 8.
Yep. So at 8, my number 7 ranked player is Jameson Williams. I have him ranked as number 7, so getting him 1 spot below. I just think the value's too high there. He's too young. He's too explosive. The long touchdowns there, the PPR upside. DJ Chark's gone. I know Amaron's still there. And I think Marvin Jones is now gone Marvin Jones is now back in Detroit. Mm-hmm. Sorry. But that's another veteran guy that doesn't scare me. I love Jameson Williams' upside. 1 year fully. He's a whole off season with Goff. I extremely love his upside this year and moving forward.
Yeah, for me, I had J-Mo. I had him down at number 11. So the first pick of the second round for me is where I had him. Just because there is a couple more wide receivers and other guys that I feel a little bit more comfortable with. And again, like I said, Brent, this is where it really gets into your personal feelings and afflictions. And obviously, you just have JMO a little higher than I do. I do think the Detroit Lions are trending in the right direction. I think at some point, JMO is going to be a really good piece in fantasy. I just haven't seen enough yet for me to say, yep, I view it, I see it, whatever. I'm going to take a real quick pause break where we're at. Or do you want, let's get through the top 10 and then we'll answer this question we've got here on YouTube about Tyreek Hill for Garrett Wilson. But let's get through our top 10 first. We'll take a real quick break after the end of the first round. And then we'll get into this second round. So for me, at number 9, I actually have Christian Watson. I actually had him up at 7 is where I was comfortable with him. But I do obviously have to drop him down to 9 because you left me a couple other guys up there. But anyway, Christian Watson, I think we saw enough down the stretch from him after, I know, and I won't point anybody out, but after his nasty drop in the first game of the season, I know some people were ready to right ship on him and call him a bust, but down the stretch, he definitely had some really, really, really fantastic playoff games or fantasy relevant games. Sorry, even some in the playoffs. And the one big thing I took away from that is if you remember the game where Jordan Love played a decent amount when the Packers were down, he looked Christian Watson's way quite a bit. And this guy's just got freakish speed. I think he's going to be a guy that, if Aaron Rodgers officially leaves Green Bay, they're going to do a lot of Debo-esque type of things with Christian Watson, getting him the ball in his hands early in space and letting him create plays or stuff after the play. So I really think Christian Watson for me is again, I had him over guys like Jamison Williams and Treylon Burks. So that, and there's some other names we haven't talked about yet too, but for me, I just had to get Christian Watson in my first round at this point.
Yeah, absolutely. Don't hate that. I have him down as 12. I just, a lot of question marks in that offense, how much they're going to lean on the run. I do love Watson's upside. And as these question marks become unfolded, I assume he's going to move his way up my rankings a little bit higher. So that leaves me at what, number 10?
Number 10.
At number 10, I'm taking Rachaad White. I have him up as my number 8 player. Absolutely. They obviously trust him. Fournette's gone. Rachaad White's the number 1. We saw what he was capable of down the stretch. PPR high upside. Great runner. I extremely believe that he will be the starter in Tampa Bay, and I absolutely love what he can produce in that offense. So yeah, Rachaad White, getting him at number 10 in my mind's a steal. This is a very capable three down workhorse back, and that's really hard to find in the NFL nowadays. There's a lot of people splitting backfields, and I think White has shown that he's able to take that, especially with Fournette missing time last season and when he did take over. So I absolutely love getting Rachaad White at number 10.
Yeah, I had Rachaad White at 12, Brant. So definitely not very far off there. We were definitely both high on him. I do have a running back ahead of him that I'm going to talk about here, pick number 11. But before we get into that, let's discuss this question that we had come in here on YouTube. It says Tyreek Hill and the 112 to get Garrett Wilson. How close is that? Brant, I'm going to let you go first because I know where my feelings are on this, but I'm going to let you go first.
So you're sending Hill and the 112. So, Hill's upside is so good with Tua. The age gap, I think you're close. I still think you might be giving up too much, actually giving up a first round and Tyreek. I know it's the last pick of the first round. If you're going in like full rebuild mode and you're not in championship contention to go get Garrett Wilson, and that's what you want, the young age, I think you're absolutely close. If you're still in championship contention, wow, I cannot speak apparently. I don't think I'm making that trade. I think I'm going to stick with Tyreek and see what else I get at the 112. But if you're in rebuild, absolutely, I'm taking that trade. I'll try to give up something a little less than a little less valuable than the 112, maybe a second round pick, because you are giving up, in my mind, a top 10 dynasty wide receiver in Tyreek. And in my mind right now, those two are fairly even. It's the age that's the only gap in my mind.
Yeah, so for me, Brant, I actually disagree. I don't think I'm taking this trade at all unless I can get it closer for just being a straight up, because I do view for the next few seasons anyway that Tyreek Hill and Garrett Wilson are very, very close. And we do know that, unfortunately, it's a statistic right now. Hopefully that breaks. Maybe the Fatboyz can have something to do with that. But right now, traditionally, most dynasty leagues last somewhere between 3 to 5 years. In 5 years, I'm not sure Tyreek Hill is going to still be that much worse than Garrett Wilson. Garrett Wilson will be better in 5 years, but the next 3 years for sure. I'm not sure Garrett Wilson's that much better. I think you get 1 or 2 seasons with Garrett Wilson and Aaron Rodgers, which is going to be a lot of fun. But we saw what Tyreek Hill did when he downgraded at quarterback. So I'm not worried about Tyreek. Tyreek's still one of the better wide receivers in fantasy football in my mind. I don't think I make this trade unless it's a lot closer to straight up. Like even a second round pick on the Tyreek side for me, I don't think I'm comfortable with. If you're telling me maybe a fringe cut player off my team or like a third or a fourth round rookie pick, I could see myself doing that. But like Brant, you have Tyreek Hill in our dynasty league that you and I have in our home league. I have Garrett Wilson. I do love Garrett Wilson, but I don't think that unless you and I were both saying, hey, I just feel more comfortable with the other player, let's swap. I don't see you adding anything onto your end to come get Garrett Wilson. I don't see myself adding anything on Garrett Wilson to go get Tyreek Hill. So for me, I don't make this move.
Yeah, I'm in full agreement. Like I said, it's almost, if you're in rebuild, then maybe, but other than that, I think I'm going to probably avoid that. And you still don't know who's throwing the ball to Garrett Wilson. I definitely probably clicked out of my mind for a minute, but until I know Rodgers is going there, I'm probably not moving Garrett. I'm probably not taking Garrett Wilson on right now.
Now Garrett Wilson is going to, in redrafts, especially when Aaron Rodgers goes there, he's going to shoot up as he should. But I don't know, in a dynasty, I'm not guaranteed Aaron Rodgers is throwing the ball to Garrett Wilson for 2, 3, 4 years. So for me, not saying you are with 2 on Tyreek either. So then it just becomes how you view the player. So I just can't do it right now. All right, so real quick recap, in no particular order, I'm just going to go over the players that we have off the board right now, Brant. We have Rachaad White off the board, Jameson Williams, Treylon Burks, Tyler Algier, Christian Watson, Dameon Pierce, Chris Olave. I'm sorry, I said Tyler Algier. That's my next pick. He's off the board. We'll get on Drake London, Garrett Wilson, Kenneth Walker, and Breece Hall. All right, so let's get into the pick number 11, the first pick of the second round. Since I threw it out there anyway, Tyler Algier is completely disrespected not being in the first round. I had him at pick number 8. I just could not get to him because I had Christian Watson ranked higher than him. Tyler Algier had finished the season with stats very comparable to both Dameon Pierce and Kenneth Walker. And that was with him having no role basically through the first 5 weeks of the season. Atlanta definitely had, and yes, this is a homer thing. I'm definitely going to stand on this here. Atlanta had one of the best, if not the best, rushing attack in football last year. Their offensive line graded really well, which is unusual for us. I'm talking 4 to 5 yards a carry every time, regardless of who had the ball in their hands. Now, obviously, we're doing this, the same month as the rookie draft, ran about 3 weeks early. If Bijan Robinson or Jahmyr Gibbs come to Atlanta, obviously Tyler Algier falls way down because he's a 6th round draft capital. There's not a whole lot of investment here. But with what he was able to do in that system last year, I think if he plays a full 17-game slate, you're going to see him be a lot closer. I could see this guy coming into my top 30 wide receiver rankings as we get into those. I feel like Tyler Algier is definitely going to be a guy that's going to be really hard for me not to have him listed, potentially even in the RB2 category. So for me to get him at this first pick in the second round, I'm ecstatic about this.
Yeah, I have Algier right up there at inside my top 15. I couldn't pull the trigger on some other names. As you alluded to, the 6th round draft capital does scare me a little bit off of him, but yeah, he's definitely up there in my top 15. So with my next pick, I am going to go another running back, and that is James Cook out of Buffalo. I love what he did there. I know that Buffalo's a high-powered offense. Singletary's gone. Zach Moss is gone. It's almost the James Cook show. Foley. I do believe they added somebody else there.
Damian Harris.
Yeah. But I still think James Cook is the PPR format stud, and I absolutely love him. Getting him, I actually had him ranked at number 10 in my rankings. So getting him there in my second round at number 12 made me a lot happier.
So where you and I are talking about preference, this really kicks in because I own James Cook in a few dynasty leagues. I've got him all the way down at pick number 17 right now. So it just really comes into personal affliction. Listen, Brant, if you listen to the landscape and the rule of the land and everything, a lot of people still expect Buffalo to address this running back spot in the draft or via trade. If that happens again, just like with Tyler Algier, James Cook really takes a knock in the playbook for me. And just because I think Buffalo's track record has indicated that they are willing to throw, pick after pick after pick at running back, especially with the last 3 years. I think we had, 3 running backs in a row drafted in the 3rd or 4th round in the last 3 years with Singletary, Moss, and then Cook last year. So they're not scared to go ahead and continue to throw picks at that position. So for that makes me a little nervous. That's why I had him a little bit lower, but I don't hate it because you're right. If they don't address it, he could be a PPR superstar this year. So for me, I had at pick 13, I took a little bit of a different approach. I took a bigger bodied running back, but I think kind of almost over exceeded expectations last year. I took Brian Robinson out of the Washington Commanders. A lot of folks were still on the fence. Is it going to be Brian Robinson? Is it going to be Antonio Gibson? And it shook out to be Brian Robinson. And a lot of folks, especially the Antonio Gibson truthers, were saying, if you give Antonio Gibson as many touches as Brian Robinson does, the numbers are going to be what? Yeah, well, Ron Rivera said that's not what we're doing. So Ron Rivera said we're going to feed the beast that is Brian Robinson. And Brian Robinson had some very, very productive fantasy games in our Fantasy Holics Dynasty League, Brant, that you and I are both a part of. I started Brian Robinson a ton down the stretch as in a flex spot just due to the fact that I could not sit him or justify sitting him. And for me, I think pick 14 where I just took him, I feel like it's a very adequate spot for him. I don't feel like it's too high. I don't feel like it's too low. I think it's appropriate.
Yeah, definitely at pick 13 isn't a bad place for him. He was right there. I actually had him down at 17. I flip-flopped him and Algier when I was doing my rankings earlier. So I was right there with you, and then I was like, do I trust it? So he kind of moved down. Algier moved up. But I went on a wide receiver binge right here, and Algier or / Robinson cut that off in my rankings. And so with my 14th overall pick, I'm taking George Pickens out of Pittsburgh. His upside, his upside's there. He is still a basket case. It's still a little bit of a head case there, but I absolutely love what he's done with Kenny Pickett. Judging by your face, you probably must have just kind of scanned over that name.
I had him in my first round.
You know me, when we went into our rookie draft, I went in with the plan to piss somebody off because I watched way too much film on George Pickens after people started talking about him, and I fell in love, and I actually traded up and enjoyed watching what he was capable of sitting on my taxi squad all year last year. And I am extremely excited to see what his upside is. We saw him have multiple explosion games. We saw these outstanding catches. Him and Kenny Pickett will actually get a full offseason of developing a little more chemistry, learning that offense a little bit more. And I expect George Pickens to really slide into that number 2 role. And the rule of thumb is Pittsburgh doesn't miss 2 years in a row on wideouts. So I'm assuming that George Pickens should be a pretty good a wideout moving forward. They've done great in drafting their wideouts. So I expect George Pickens to really have a very great sophomore year.
Yeah, Brant, I'm shaking my head over here at myself because I had Pickens in the top 10 here. I had him round out number 10. I just missed him. I got way too many chicken scratches and scribble marks on my paper here. So I definitely he would have been off the board prior to you at pick 13.
Just took him at 11. I had him ranked as 11, so getting him at 14 was a steal in my mind.
Yeah, listen, I think the biggest thing that's going to be big for George Pickens moving forward is that Kenny Pickett's going to continue to develop and be better. He's not going to be as bad as he was last year. He's going to continue to be better. But again, for me, I overlooked him. That happens sometimes in drafts, so I just missed out, and I'm kicking myself for it. So maybe I hope he just doesn't play as well as he did last year. We'll see. So for me at number 15, I'm going to go – you're going running wide receiver here. I'm going running back still, apparently. I can't get myself over it. I'm going Isaiah Pacheco. I know this is probably a head scratcher for you, Brant, because we don't talk about him a whole lot here on our cast. But again, this is one of those products of the environment where you're at and how good he looked down the stretch. I know Jerick McKinnon was the name that everybody was using to win weeks and win leagues. As Jerick McKinnon cost me the one overall pick in our draft, and I ended up falling into the 102 because I played Jerick McKinnon thinking he was going to be a bum for me. But such is life. Isaiah Pacheco is a guy that I think he ran really well late. Out of the University of Rutgers there. I think he showed some value late. And for me, the reason I still have him here is that we've just seen that in the dynasty landscape, yes, it's kind of moving on to the wide receiver thing, but you have to have relevant running backs to be relevant yourself. It's easier to replace that production from a wide receiver than it is a running back. So on trade value alone, for me, I'm taking Isaiah Pacheco still. I had him at 14, so getting him at 15 for me is just a spot where I feel very comfortable.
Pacheco, I don't trust the Kansas City backfield. They moved on way too quick with CEH. Jerick McKinnon was a stud down the stretch. I know Pacheco was great in the playoffs. And in my mind, I had Pacheco literally sitting right there. I'm sure there's a P scratched off a few times in my rankings here. I had him just outside my top 20. And for that, and one of my main reasons is I feel like that might be a Gabe Davis situation all over again, where he had that amazing playoff run. And then we got to see what he actually does coming out, because everybody was all hyped up about Gabe Davis. And I don't know if I trust the Pacheco train quite yet. I know I'll probably end up kicking myself in the butt for that one, but yeah, that's the first one that I think I have out and you have in. I'm sure as we get closer down this board, I'm sure there'll be another one. So I'm at pick 16.
Mm-hmm.
Jahan Dotson out of Washington had an amazing time when he was on the field, or it was an amazing fantasy production when he was on the field. Found the end zone quite a bit. Sam Howell, as of right now, Sam Howell is the quarterback. I am in the spot where I feel comfortable taking question mark players. I know Scary Terry's still in town, but I absolutely love the upside that Dotson brings this year. I expect him to, as long as he can stay healthy, I expect him to be a very, very valuable option there. And they're in a conference where they have to put points up to hang in most games. There's not a whole lot of defense. I know the defenses are ranked, high in that conference, but it always seems like they're always hanging points and then are in that division too. So I absolutely expect Jahan Dotson to have a good bounce back year, so to say. So I have him as my number 16th overall pick.
Yeah, I had him at 15, so I definitely like where you're taking him there. Again, there's a lot of question marks regarding the quarterback situation there in Washington. Obviously Scary Terry I still have above Jahan Dotson as well. So, but again, you're getting into this range where it's still year 2 dart throws, if you will. A lot of the guys that we've mentioned prior to about pick 15 were guys that, or even at pick 15 with Pacheco, because you felt like he was a pretty risky dart throw. But a lot of these guys are starting to be dart throws where we didn't see enough in year 1, but there's enough athletic prowess for us to be still somewhat excited about these guys. Their situations may be okay or whatever else, then they still have to go. And I agree, Brant. Jahan Dotson, the value's there. For me, though, it's Terry McLaurin and Sam Howell make me question him a little bit. So at 17, I have a wide receiver. I had Jahan Dotson ahead of this guy, but it's very close for me. It was a coin flip, if you will. At 17, I have Wan'Dale Robinson from the New York Giants. This is a guy that he gets the same quarterback back next year. He was very limited last year with injuries. A lot of concussions and then ultimately the knee injury that put him out for the year. But this is a guy that when he was on the field, he was electric. He was so fun. And I think it was a big part of the reason why the New York Giants were willing to, trade off on Kadarius Toney when he was still under his rookie contract. So for me, Wan'Dale Robinson's a guy that the question marks for me are only around his injuries and not so much anything else, because, Isaiah Hodgins and guys like that don't necessarily scare me. I know they re-signed Darius Slayton, but Galladay and both Richie James are also gone. So the wide receiver pool in New York is thin, and I think that gives me a lot of faith when it comes to a guy like Wan'Dale Robinson.
Not gonna lie, I have Wan'Dale sitting there as my 15th overall player. I was hoping to snag him with my 18th overall pick. So I absolutely do not hate that pick at all. This one is my 18th overall pick is another dart throw, but another guy that's in a great situation with a great quarterback. The number one had moved on. The number one wide receiver has moved on. The best pass catcher in the offense is still there. But I'm going with Sky Moore out of the Kansas City Chiefs. Patrick Mahomes shares the ball very, very well shares the ball very well in Kansas City, and I expect big things from Sky Moore. I know that Kadarius Toney's there, and I know Travis Kelce's there, but I expect Sky Moore to be more involved this season. So I really like his upside in the Kansas City offense. That's an offense that everybody wants to get a little piece of, and this is my chance to get a little piece of is Sky Moore with the possibility of being a forgotten wide receiver out of that offense.
Sky Moore did not make my top 20. I feel like if I want to own a piece of that offense, I'd much rather take a gamble at the running back position, which is why I had Isaiah Pacheco in and Sky Moore out. Sky Moore had a couple opportunities last year and fumbled the ball or fumbled the opportunity away, if you will. That's why we saw guys like MVS and Kadarius Toney and Juju and even Mecole Hardman be so relevant when they were on the field last year. And you did. Juju's gone. McColl's gone. So it should leave the door open for a guy like Sky Moore, but I just don't trust him. I don't trust his game. I'm not sure how well it translates. I do think Kansas City adds a big weapon in this year's class. I think a guy like Zay Flowers would make a ton of sense for Kansas City, and that's not what this show's about. But if they add any wide receiver in this class, it leapfrogs Sky Moore as well.
Yeah. Sky Moore's out of my rankings if they had somebody like that.
And I just think that there's no chance they don't. That's a big part of why I did not have him in here. So for me, I'm out on Sky Moore. You took Sky Moore at 18. So for me at 19, I am taking Romeo Doubs, the wide receiver there in Green Bay, who really at the beginning of the season, he was the one that looked like he was the better wide receiver between him and Christian Watson, was definitely more involved. Aaron Rodgers definitely started getting some connection with him. And then down the stretch, it was both of these guys, to me, were better than Allen Lazard or Randall Cobb. And next year should have Jordan Love with these guys, and no Lazard, no Cobb, no Robert Tonyan. These guys should be a product of their environment and should both feast between Romeo Doubs and Christian Watson. I do expect Doubs to be the 1B in that offense, probably closer to number 2 overall, not a 1B situation, but good enough, and the volume should be good enough that I couldn't see leaving him outside of my top 20. I know you didn't have him in yours, but for me, Romeo Doubs, based on his situation in the dynasty landscape, was too good for me to leave off.
Yeah, I absolutely think his upside's there. I just and this is, as you talked about, personal feelings, personal beliefs, and I think he might have been the beneficiary of the Aaron Rodgers great accuracy and Watson missing time and Cobb going down. And so I don't trust it. It's one of those things that, like you said, you trust the fact that him and Watson are going to be the 1-2. I don't know if I do trust it. I know they didn't have much draft stock in him. So it is, once again, it's just, do you trust it all? So with mine, I'm going to butcher this name at number 20, but I had to seem to have to get him in there. He had so well, and I'm just going to do it. It's the Tennessee tight end. You've been practicing it, so I'll let you say it.
It's Chig Kawanko. Yeah, I'm not looking at it because I left him off of my top 20. I had a different tight end in, but I thought about it. It came down to that tight end and my guy. But yeah, I mean, Chig definitely had some great games down the stretch, Brant. I could see the allure.
Yeah, and the fact that Treylon Burks, Robert Woods is gone, Austin Hooper, I believe, is out the door. Leaving Chig as the number one option in tight end there. I do love Treylon Burks, but I like Chig's upside and getting a tight end that could possibly see, 70, 80 targets a year. Plus, he's one of the red zone threats when they do have to throw the ball in the red zone. I absolutely think the upside there, and getting him as my last pick in the second round, I absolutely love it. Yeah, that's who I'm going with at number 20 overall.
Okay, so Brant, we obviously both had some guys that didn't make it into it to the top 2 rounds just because of preference of the other person. So who are the 2 guys you had not make it?
So my 2, and I had them ranked at 19 and 20, so it's actually kind of funny, was Alec Pierce out of Indianapolis and Kenny Pickett out of Pittsburgh. One quarterback in the first 2 rounds in a single quarterback league. I just don't feel the necessity to add a quarterback too early. There's, in one QB leagues, 10 or 12, there's at least 25 or 20 to 25 quarterbacks that are serviceable if you don't get one of those top 5, top 6 quarterbacks. So Kenny Pickett at the end at number 20 is where I had him. And I have Alec Pierce at number 19. I absolutely love what he is capable of. I watched a lot of film on him. I know he's a great possession wide receiver. He may not ever be the big threat guy, but I absolutely love what he is capable of and being a great possession wide receiver for the Indianapolis Colts.
Yeah, so I obviously had 2 guys not make it too, and for me, it was my tight end and a quarterback who I also had at 19 and 20. I had Greg Dulcich at my 19 spot, the tight end there out of Denver. Definitely became one of Russ's favorite targets near the goal line, near the red zone last year. And to say Russ had a favorite target's kind of rough because Russ's numbers were so bad. But as a rookie tight end, Greg Dulcich definitely had some really good weeks. I was able to play him in a few leagues. I traded Kittle late in the season in a league. Actually, it's our home league, Brant, for Garrett Wilson in a league where I was fading out of contention rapidly, and the person I traded him to was fighting for playoffs. And so I had to start Greg Dulcich a lot down the stretch, and I was actually really happy with the turnout and what I got from him. And I just expect that to keep getting better as he progresses. Obviously, we know Denver can't pivot away from Russ. So the connection is going to have to only do anything but get stronger. So I definitely like him there. And at 20, I took my quarterback as well. And I did not take Kenny Pickett. I took Desmond Ridder. Just because if you look at upside and things of that nature, Ridder has better wheels than Kenny Pickett. So you're going to get more rushing yards out of a guy like Desmond Ridder than you will a guy like Kenny Pickett. And I'm not sure that I genuinely like Pickett's weapons all that much more than I like Desmond Ridder's. I think I'd take Drake London over Deontay Johnson or George Pickens at this point. And obviously I'm still taking Kyle Pitts over Pat Freiermuth. So for those reasons and those reasons alone, I moved Desmond Ridder into my top 20 ranking because just like you had mentioned, I don't want to jump for a quarterback, but if I had to take one in last year's class where I'm at right now, it would be Desmond Ridder.
Yeah, I don't hate either one of those. Like you said, I'm shying away from that Denver offense quite a bit this year. Unfortunately, I do already own a piece of Dynasty, the number 1 running back there, Samaje Perine. But yeah. I'm going to take my stab at our good buddy Urish at any chance I get right now. But yeah, no, I that offense scares me. You got a new head coach coming in. I know Peyton is a mad genius when it comes to it. So I'm excited to see what that offense does, but I'm not sure what that offense is actually going to do.
Can't be any worse.
Yeah, it can't be any worse. With how abysmal Russ did look, I'm shying quite a bit from anybody catching the ball there. And I mean, they did just come out and say that Sutton and Judy are not going anywhere. So that scares me a little bit, but both of them have been banged up and missed a little bit of time throughout their career. So Dulcich actually is a guy that I don't absolutely hate at the end of the second round.
All right. Well, that does it for our rookie recap, redrafting last year's 2020 class. Obviously, we're inching ever so closer to rookie redraft or rookie mock drafts for this year. We've mentioned before the reason we don't like doing them now is because their landing spots mean so much to their draft capital in rookie drafts. So, we won't touch those guys until after they've been drafted, and then they'll dive head first, probably do a couple of them over the next couple of months. But Brant, this is a lot of fun. Glad to have done it. We'll have to wait and see what happens with these guys next year, but I'm sure these rankings will change again as the season plays out. That's the one thing about a dynasty landscape. Your rankings have to be fluid. You have to be, willing to jockey your opinion on things and move more quickly than you would in a redraft.
Yeah, absolutely. It'll be interesting to see where they all move. I wrote down where you had, the majority of your numbers, and I wrote down, obviously where I had all mine, and it'll be interesting to see, here in just a few weeks when the draft is done and over with, to see how the names move on. And but
Absolutely.
I think that wraps it up. So as always, stay hungry
And stay fat, my friends.